Ooh, soccer.
Exactly. You guys are
Every,
good to go. Have at it.
all right. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay. Take two. Here we are. Should be much better video. Our saving grace one. Josh Engelman has us hooked up here. So for those of you in chat, my apologies. Getting a new computer. It's a little light on the gaming aspect apparently because I have the airplane mode on. I'm plugged into the router. Sadly, not enough. Let's head again real quick on the first game, the Utah game, Adam, with the back-to-back there for New Orleans. Just quickly summarize that for anybody popping into this particular stream since we're going to kill that other one.
Yeah, Anthony Davis is really good at basketball. He's always going to be a good play. I don't think he's necessarily the best play at the top tier. We'll talk about that as the show goes on. But his ability to pull Rudy Gobert away from the basket and score means that he should be able to mitigate some of Gobert's rim protection. He's obviously involved as a rebounder and as a passer as well. And the Pelicans play at a fast enough pace that he gets plenty of possessions. The downside being that Utah is a good defensive team overall, and Alvin Gentry has talked about getting his reserves more playing time. So I think potentially you could see a couple of minutes, chopped off from starters. Drew Holiday's price tag, I don't love him in this matchup, but at 6,500 on DraftKings, if we assume that he plays around 36 minutes, I think at the very least it gives him a high floor. His ceiling, he's probably not going to hit as frequently in this matchup, but he's still involved enough as a passer and as a scorer that 36 minutes at 6,500 is a decent price tag. Julius Randle's listed as questionable. If he were to end up missing, I think that you would see more minutes for Nikola Mirotic. And while he is outperforming expectations from a shooting percentage standpoint, the usage is still there for him. And if he were to get more playing time, obviously that would only be a good thing. So nothing that I love from this game, but I do think there are, a few reasonable secondary plays with Holiday, Mirotic, and, Anthony Davis. You can never really go wrong.
All right. That's the catch up there. Thank you again for everybody's patience. Reminder, use the promo code DFS strategy. You will get 7 free days of Osmo premium content that does now include, wait for it, the Fantasy Cruncher add-on. You get to try out everything. Fancy yourselves a mass multi-entry player. You can join, get the Fantasy Cruncher add-on, and then you can dive into the quarter contests over there on FanDuel, DraftKings, and by the way, Fantasy Draft does from time to time put up some quarter contests. Next game we have here, Adam, is Boston at Detroit. We've got Boston favored by 3.5.
We need the Utah side.
Oops. Oh, really? We're going to play Utah? Yes, we are, because we've got to talk about Donovan Mitchell, and we need to talk about Rudy Gobert. Adam, how do you think Rudy Gobert is going to do in this game?
Yeah, I like the price tag on Gobert. He's only 7,400 on DraftKings. Obviously, he's facing a ball-dominant player in Anthony Davis, and then assuming Julius Randle plays, if he plays any minutes alongside or against Randle, both those guys are going to have the ball, which increases Gobert's, upside for defensive stats. And he's just cheap enough for the minutes that he plays that I think he's a pretty strong center option. There are a couple of guys for a little bit less that I like a little bit more, so I guess that just it makes him more of a secondary play than a core play, but I do like him. Joe Ingles, I think, is worth a mention just because he's been touching the ball so much this season. I don't have Utah's stats loaded in front of me, but for the season, he has around a 25% assist percentage, I believe, going from memory, but his expected assist percentage is even higher, up around 32 or 33%. He's been very involved as a facilitator this year in addition to getting his shots. He's not someone I normally like to roster, but I think it is worth mentioning that he probably does have a bit higher ceiling this year than we've seen in the past. Donovan Mitchell, coming off a monster game against the Rockets, now faces a very fast-paced Pelicans team. He's still reasonably priced. He was someone that we talked about should start shooting better as the season goes on. He was pretty significantly underperforming his career field goal percentage going into that Rockets game. I expect him to continue putting up more games like he did against Houston. Gets a ton of usage, up around 30%. Probably will be defended by Drew Holiday here, which is a tough matchup, but still it's a nice pace-up spot for him. And then Ricky Rubio, I mean, it's not someone that I trust, but he should play around 30 minutes in this game. He's only $5,400 in a massive pace-up spot against the Pelicans. Drew Holiday should be distracted by Donovan Mitchell, so maybe a couple extra field goal attempts for Rubio are possible. I think that's a very appealing price tag. I think he's priced more to like his 25th percentile outcome than his 75th at 5,400.
All right, a couple of the guys I do want to point out at a bit of a discount over there on Yahoo. From time to time, I will talk about that. I do enjoy playing over there because they do not allow mass multi-entry. They have a maximum of 10 per contest, so you don't have to worry about people getting too crazy and splashing the pot, as they say, swamping things. Additionally, they do not have the upload capability. So you do have to build your rosters by hand. Now you can utilize Fantasy Cruncher or some of the other optimizers and build your teams, but you still have to click them in there by hand. You can find a bit of an edge there. There is a very unique pricing system, and you can go stars and scrubs, but oftentimes they'll have some middle tier guys that are underpriced. Tonight, Donovan Mitchell at 32. There is intriguing. Nikolai Mirotic, if Randall is out, also at 32 is a fine option. And then Elfrid Payton there, I like him at $20. So someone I want to, as long as he doesn't have any setbacks or issues with that cramp that burned him a little bit in his last game, we should be all right there. So again, I know it's not glamorous there. You're not going to, win the big prize. You can win up to I won a $5,000 prize there for baseball. So it is possible to get something. But if you want to make your dollar last a little bit longer, definitely give a look over there on Yahoo. All right, back to our next game, Adam. We've got Boston. We've got Detroit. Detroit are low road favorites by 3.5. We have a 2-10 over under. We do know that Aaron Baines will be out from this contest. He was out of the last one as well. He is dealing with a hamstring injury. And then Justice Winslow still just listed this morning, about 10 minutes ago, as probable, dealing with a sore right hamstring. But they think that the projected or the other probable guys will be Derek Jones and Wayne Ellington. So Winslow, I misspoke yesterday on the podcast. He had not yet started. I just assumed when they said he was cleared to play and ready to go in the last game that he did. I just hadn't played him. So
yeah, nope. He just never came in.
That's for as much information as they give us from Coach Spoelstra. Sometimes it's not always the most helpful information.
Yeah, obviously I didn't have a lot of him, but I had him in more than 0 lineups, and I'm scrolling through, and it's like, oh, I guess the probable guy's not going to play. But yeah, so him being back, him and Ellington, both being probable for this game, really throws a wrench into the fringe Miami guys that we had been able to play early in the season. Derek Jones was someone that I played a lot early on, and he came through pretty nicely at minimum price. Rodney McGruder has been very, very good playing big minutes, but with Winslow probable, with Ellington probable, you're going to see Jones, I would think, probably just entirely fall out of the rotation. He had been playing exclusively at the 4. Now you're going to see Winslow in there. You're going to see Olynyk still. So that's obviously just going to knock him out completely. But Rodney McGruder is going to go from his mid-30s probably back to right around 30 now that you have Ellington in there as well. And then Josh Richardson's going to lose minutes. He was playing 38 to 40 minutes a night. Now you'll probably see him back around 33 or 34. And all of these guys are priced to what they've been playing earlier in the season. So it naturally makes them all overpriced once all these guys come back. So it makes Miami an absolute mess right now for DFS purposes. Outside of the people who won't really be affected, that would be Goran Dragic at $5,900. He's never my favorite play because point guard's normally pretty deep, and I don't think this slate's any exception. But when you get him at less than $6,000, there's certainly a ceiling there for him. And then Hassan Whiteside is absolutely my favorite play for Miami. He's one of my favorite plays on the slate. He has another matchup against Yusuf Nurkic, who has been playing 32, 33 minutes a night. And I would expect Whiteside to be on the floor whenever Nurkic is on the floor. So we've seen a lot of matchups recently where Whiteside was potentially at risk of being run off the floor by small ball second units. And that never even really happened. He dealt with foul trouble more than he dealt with being run off the floor by smaller lineups. And then last game against the Knicks, he still didn't play a lot of minutes because the game blew out. So what you're seeing is if you pull up the popular sites that project minutes and give you projections and that large percentages of the fields used for their information, you have Hassan Whiteside projected for 26 or 27 minutes because of all the foul trouble and blowouts he's dealt with up to this point. I think a much more realistic projection for Whiteside is 32 or 33 minutes, and that's going to give you a much different projection, obviously, than a lot of the field is using. So at $7,000, I absolutely love Whiteside, one of my favorite plays on the slate in any format.
All right. Sorry, I got us out of order there, but let's finish up on this one here. Damian Lillard coming off a phenomenal outing in his last start. Apparently was going back and forth with the heckler and decided to drop 41 points. Don't you wish he could decide to drop 41 points whenever he wants to? Does it have to be a heckler or his grandmother in the crowd? Is that how this works for him?
Yeah, I need to start getting a list of who's in the crowd. Like, if you have someone that's going to talk shit to Damian Lillard, if you have Kobe Bryant watching LeBron, those are things that would be really useful to know as I make lineups.
No stone left unturned here at Awesemo.com. We're going to find all the variables and try to consolidate them together here for any perceived bit of an edge. What do you like here from the backcourts here? We've talked a little bit about, and then we'll loop back to the 7 o'clock games, but we talked a little bit about Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum essentially just mirroring each other and playing in tandem and just playing all their minutes together. This is intentional. You and I had talked a little bit about it. Not always the best from a fantasy perspective, but from a real basketball efficiency perspective, it's definitely helping CJ McCollum. The counterpoint to that is it's something similar that the Wizards are also trying with Beal and Wall. I don't hate it, but it's something that I think limits for fantasy purposes somewhat one CJ McCollum because he's not getting the run as the primary distributor facilitator with the second unit. Do you like either of these guys against Miami, who while they're playing a little quicker than last year, by no means near the top of the league?
So I think it kind of cuts both ways on McCollum. It's not good for him from a per minute production standpoint, not getting as many assists because he doesn't play with the second unit, getting a little bit less usage. But what's important to keep in mind is that at the end of the day, DFS is about pricing. And CJ McCollum is down to $6,200 on DraftKings, which means that even in his new role, I think he is a bit underpriced. We still are seeing around the 27% usage rate from McCollum this year, which is very healthy. He's going to play around 33 or 34 minutes. And he kind of like we talked about with Donovan Mitchell, he's been shooting under expectation compared to where he's been at in previous years. He has also been running a bit under expectation on assists. I haven't updated his numbers from the last game, but I know going into the last game, he had about a 10% assist rate, and I had him projected for a 16% expected assist percentage. So he's been running a little bad there, even though we don't expect as many as we've seen in previous years. And so his price tag being adjusted for how he's played this year has made him a little bit underpriced. He dealt with foul trouble in that last game and only played 29 or 30 minutes. So he's not going to be a core play for me against a Miami team that I expect to be pretty solid defensively, especially getting back. Justice Winslow is going to make the unit as a whole better, but I do think that he's a little bit underpriced. Lillard, obviously, he has a ceiling whenever he goes out there, but he's not someone that I'm going to prioritize here because he also does lose a bit of per minute production when he plays alongside McCollum, and nearly all of his minutes are alongside McCollum now. He gets 1 or 2 minutes maybe without McCollum, and his price tag, up around $9,000. It's just kind of tough for me to project him as a top play there. Certainly he can go out any given night and put up, 55, 60 points, but it's not something that I'm really expecting to happen. And that's going to mean limited exposure to Lillard for me.
All right. Anybody else down on the discount side here? We do know that Miami is checking in with the 5th best defensive efficiency rating on the season. Again, it's early on, but that's something they're traditionally pretty good at and should just get better with Winslow back. But on either side, maybe a Dwayne Wade, Bam Adebayo, Zach Collins, or again, just better options since we do have a 9-game player pool.
There's a couple other guys on Portland I'm interested in. Nurkic, for one. I mean, he's just such a per-minute monster when he plays, averaging around 1.5 fantasy points per minute this season in a matchup against Whiteside where he should play towards the upper end of his minutes range, up around 30, 32 minutes. And he's 6,700. So